And with that, I want to welcome everybody to Crashing Game Night. My name is Matt Duero, your host, as always. Tonight, we got not one, but we got two guests crashing Game Night with us from Marvel Games, which I'm going to preface this right now. We're not talking any Marvel talk on this tonight. This is strictly baseball, right. But we got Eric Monacelli from Marvel Games.
Hello. How's it going?
And we got the host of Final Fantasy Weekly, as well as one of the Rockies writers for Mile High Sports. It's great to say Mile High Sports for you, Drew. But Drew Creasman.
The legend.
What's happening, fellas?
Welcome back, Drew.
Always good to crash game night. Always good.
Welcome back, Eric, after a long
it is up, dudes.
A long hiatus.
Yeah. We were just talking about that. Almost 100 episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's my centennial, right?
It was back. Yeah, we were just talking. It's like we talked about doing a baseball episode when you were last on the podcast. So the fact it's taking this long, it's impressive. But ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by the Dodger-loving Beanie one, Gerard Barrera.
What is up, all my nerds? How you doing? That's right.
Go Dodgers
live forever. Go Dodgers. Go Dodgers.
And
Dodgers for life.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the maitre d' services, the man with the couch, the man, the myth, the legend, the Lions mane, Jason Belletio.
How's it going, guys? How's it going tonight? You know,
like Lion Cub now. Yeah. He trimmed up.
It's just going back in.
It's going back in, dude.
It's going back. Yeah.
It's already here.
You're just tailoring it, right? You're just tailoring it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, a couple weeks ago, Eric, I was just full clean shave.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
After a long beard, and I was
he showed up, and we're like, "Who is this?"
And then just thought really hard, like Edward James almost, and he had a full beard after like one.
just popped. Right? Yeah, just popped.
Just the Homer. I just had the Homer. You just shaved it down, and then just boop, back on.
Totally.
But man,
total Santa Claus
quite
moment.
A while. It's been quite a while, you guys. You know,
yeah. Good to see the couch. Good to see you.
Yeah, it is a new couch since you were last time. Yeah,
it's a different couch. Yeah.
You gotta upgrade once in a while.
Yeah. Is that leather? Is that a leather couch?
No. It's
okay.
It's the good old, like, you know, that felt feel.
Felt.
I don't know what that
is.
I don't know.
Let's call
leather.
Leather. Yeah. Seersucker.
Yeah.
One of those.
Oh, so Eric, how you been? I mean, I've been talking off and on Twitter and stuff, but you know, how you been?
Yeah, I've been good. I've been very busy working on some stuff and getting ready for the year ahead.
And eating good with the World Baseball Classic.
Oh, that was really good eating. That was literally what the world needed. You know, like when I read some of the stats on that, I was just like, man, I think Shohei I know Shohei for sure. He gained like 2 million or something, Twitter or Instagram or one of those social media followers. One of those things. Yeah, which was crazy, right? Like, and that sort of stat is just brilliant. Like, you know, the world needed baseball at that level. And it was so interesting because I had seen all these commercials for the new rules for baseball and been studying the new rules and love to talk about that, but you know, that was there were no new rules in the World Baseball Classic. It was played, you know, the way the old way was, and it was just like it was breathtaking. I mean, what it came down to at the end, to like Japan versus US. Oh, so good.
Just that last just Ohtani versus Trout.
Yes,
like
classic. You can't write it any better.
And it's so like good. I think what's funny is, like, for those that don't really follow the game, I mean, that's arguably, I mean, we've talked about it on Twitter and stuff, one of the best hitters in the game, you know, arguably in Trout. And then just Ohtani's on another level.
Yes.
Even though he is, you know, speaking of new rules, he is, you know, setting records with being the first pitcher and first hitter in the same game to violate the pitch clock. But
I mean, I think the two of them are just the best players of this generation. And I mean, like, Trout's probably, you would argue Trout's the older generation, but like they're not that far apart in age. I think they're like,
he hasn't retired yet, so he's still this generation.
Yeah,
which is insane. I can't believe he's still playing.
Yeah, exactly, right?
I really can't. I thought he'd be good, but I mean, dude, if you can still play and you can still put up those numbers, at least being a solid player for your team, like, keep playing. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No,
you don't necessarily have to be that star, but like if you can still,
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I still think he's a star. I would argue like Trout's
Mhm.
still one of the best. He's probably I mean, if Otani didn't come along, Trout would still be the best player in baseball. And it's actually that showdown. Let's call it the showdown
Yeah.
with Shohei between Trout. There we go. Between Trout and Otani, it was literally like the passing of the torch. It's just like, all right, you're the best player. You're the best player now. That's what I thought. I mean, I loved it.
See, I will say this, like when we were watching Japan, when they were doing practice over in Japan, that moonshot that Otani hit in their stadium over there was just, I'm like, good Lord.
Mhm.
Like, yeah. I'm like,
I watched
he's not
him
even
take
hitting
batting practice at Coors Field.
Oh my
I
God.
watched him take batting practice at Coors Field a couple of times. One time he put on a show on purpose because it was batting practice before the home run derby when the All-Star game was here a couple of years ago. And oddly enough, he didn't do super great during the derby. He ended up, I think, going into a home run off against Juan Soto.
Yep.
Right.
That. Yep.
But the show that he put on in BP when it was a little more relaxed, when there wasn't quite as much buzz, and he could just go out there and hit the ball. But it was actually the year before that, and they had just gotten to town like 3 or 4 days after Albert Pujols had gotten his 3,000th hit. And I remember that because I made it a point because I wanted to go up and shake his hand. And as I was doing that, Shohei Ohtani was taking batting practice, and I have never seen, like, Cargo's the only guy that ever came close to like playing Pepper with the third deck. I mean, the guy was putting he was regularly hitting the ball 480 feet. And he hit, I think, the longest, and because they don't measure, because it's BP, I have no way of knowing or measuring it, but he hit a ball to right center field into the third deck. There's an area where the party deck goes all the way around. There's a brick wall out there. And he basically one-hopped it. And I went, I've stood up there. You can barely see home plate.
Correct.
To me, I thought that was the farthest I've ever seen a human. I've seen Stanton hit one 505. I saw Story hit one that they said was over 500 feet, and they took it back. I don't know how that happened. Jock Peterson has hit some absolute monster jams at Coors Field.
I mean, we've seen some monster homers.
Yeah,
especially when they put it out into the parking lot out of left field, you know.
Story literally hopped one into the parking lot. I went and found the baseball, and the security guard wouldn't let me take a picture of it.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. No. I was like, come on, man. I'm not.
So Jerry, the security guards are a lot tougher at Coors Field than they are down at Salt River Flats. It's not like the guys we ran into when we were in Arizona that time and went and walked around the spring training facility and stuff like that. No, they're like
they almost let us in the facility if I think a crew or something was going, like, doing a rundown in the office. Otherwise, he would have let us go in and check out, literally check out the locker room.
He's like, you can go walk around on the outside and whatnot. It was super cool.
Security, they'll know, like, okay, cool. It was sweet.
But no. So so for the folks that are listening to this or watching live, this is going to be a baseball show. A little change up. We are going to be talking a little bit of gaming because we're going to give some thoughts on MLB The Show 23, which a couple of us are playing. But real quick, Drew, how you been?
I'm good, man. I feel like we've seen each other a lot in the last couple of months. Actually, I was like,
we have.
I was just here at Christmas. Like, it's not that long ago. How are you?
It's your quarterly visit.
Yeah, right. Just checking in.
At least we're not talking Final Fantasy tonight. We're not talking too much gaming. We're actually going to do something that's a little bit more in our wheelhouse.
Yeah. Baseball chat.
It is.
Baseball's a game. It is a game.
That's true.
It is a game.
We have sports games, like shout out to the people that play the sports games.
So let's get to it before we start talking like baseball at the end of it and our thoughts on how the season's going, how Tampa is the only undefeated team in baseball right now. But I guess when you wallow in mediocrity for a little while and you get higher draft picks, you eventually become like the Houston Astros and just stack the deck. But MLB The Show. So we've been out. We've had a chance to play with it for a couple weeks. How are we feeling about this entrance into the series?
I think it's a huge leap forward. I think it's like one of their best entries in a while. Just storylines by, in and by itself, just there's a single player narrative now in the game, right? Like you play storylines, you get the history of Jackie Robinson and Satchel Paige and just Rube Foster and like all these amazing athletes that just weren't represented, and I adore it. I mean, like I think that was one of the wisest moves. The thing I'm hoping for them, they've never won like a sports award, like one of the big main video game ones, like the Dice Awards, or like they always get beat by FIFA or Madden or like Gran Turismo or something, right? And I'm like, if they don't win one for next year for 23, there should be riots, because they put their love.
I was wondering, how did they incorporate all that information? Was it through like a mentor that's given to like that you meet in the single player, or is it just part of the game, like where you can go and like check out all the history of baseball?
It's a mode, so it's a whole mode, and they worked really closely with Bob Kendrick from the Negro League museums, and it's brilliant. It's so well done. Ramon Russell and Colin Moore and a couple other my buddies down there worked on it, so I'm super biased, but I also just love it. They presented it in like the best way possible. Ramon and Bob have a great podcast out there where it's called Black Diamonds. So the Negro Leagues does this podcast called Black Diamonds, and they're on it together, and it's just a good listen. It goes right into like how the mode got integrated into the game. So I love that mode. Yeah, I love that mode. That mode really just sort of cemented it for me. I mean, I play Diamond Dynasty every year, and that's even more fun this year too. So I think they did a great job with everything. So,
and I think incorporating some of the deep history of the game, with especially like you mentioned Jackie Robinson, right? A lot of people don't know the story of Jackie and why 42 is such a big deal. Why we have 42 Day every year.
Why I have it on why I have it? Wait, my water bottle has it.
I mean, it's something every beginning of the season. First couple weeks of the season, I'm always watching. I always watch 42. That movie is phenomenal. Chadwick Boseman, may he rest in peace. Embodied Jackie so well, as only they could. Drew, how are you feeling about this one?
I mean, same. I was really blown away by their presentation of the Negro League history, as Eric was saying. I think even for me, what was amazing as someone who's really well educated on that history, or at least I thought I was. Like, I've been to that museum. I've studied a lot of this stuff. Obviously, I do baseball for a living, right? And I'm particularly interested in the history of it. But there were still several guys that I had never even heard of that they chose to highlight, because I was like, yeah, okay, I'm familiar with. My mother, by the way, has read every Satchel Paige book that exists.
That's awesome.
She's the biggest baseball fan that I know. And in fact, she went with me to spring training this year. And so I started playing the game when I got back. And normally my mom wouldn't give a damn about MLB The Show. But she was hooked. She was, can you do the next one? Can you do the next one? Oh, they've got the old stadiums. Oh, they've got the old uniform. She's got old Kansas City Monarch hats and shirts. Actually, the most rock and roll thing I ever did was play a show in a Kansas City Monarch shirt. That's like the coolest thing I ever got to do.
That's really cool.
But like, I was blown away by some of these stories of players like Martin Diego, who I'd never heard of before, or John Donaldson. I was like, these are some phenomenal stories, and including like the barnstorming days, and people that don't know about these like traveling super all-star, not quite Harlem Globetrotters, but similar style of super pizzazz, and they would go and they would sometimes play the all-stars from the major leagues, and they would regularly beat them, and so there's just so many great stories and all of that. It's like the first time I've ever thought to myself, wow, like you could teach this, you could have kids in school play MLB The Show. and they would learn. And actually you probably should, like, it would be a great way, because not only are you given the information, then you get to step into the shoes of Satchel Paige or Jackie Robinson or whoever, and see the what the ballparks look like and hear the sounds, and all the people are dressed to the nines like they were back in the day, right? And the crowds, on just the level of detail they put into it. I'm stunned. I agree with Eric. It should win awards, not just for this, but especially for this. I think it's the best version of the game in years across the board, actually.
Holy crap. So even the environment, well, obviously the stadiums, but the environment, like the fans,
the fans
resemble the
everything.
times.
Everything.
Wow.
Yeah, they did a really good job.
Holy crap.
And the learning, as Drew mentioned, right? Like I thought I knew a lot. I talked to Craig Kindler, who did this amazing exhibit on the Negro Leagues, and I did some of those players, but John Donaldson was new to me. I hadn't heard that name before. Just a couple folks, but then also just knowing like the stories behind how night baseball started to get played. Right? Like the Negro Leagues invented night baseball, and it was just like, I had no idea. They hooked up, they had some trucks and hooked up some lights to generators and played night baseball because that was the only time they could play. And, it's really started there. So, things like that, I feel like, it should be in schools. I do think people should learn it. It gets into not only baseball history, but American civil rights history and just the transition. And that's some of the like crucial, quintessential, essential knowledge I feel like kids need to have.
That's really cool. I didn't know that.
Definitely from like a sports perspective.
Yeah, from a sports game, like that's really showing you a lot of information. In
the old school uniforms, like the old school stands. You can see some of the old, the old hats and everything.
That's so cool.
I saw in a video somewhere, and I wish I could give credit to whoever found it, but somebody took a screenshot of, because they'll have you play, like usually how they do the story writers, they'll have you step into these moments, and it'll be like, Satchel Paige threw a no-hitter on this day or whatever. We're going to put you into the 8th or 9th inning, and you get to finish out.
And you get to relive that the final moment. Oh, that's so cool.
And then they'll show you the scoreboard, and apparently on one of the days they had a scoreboard from like an out-of-town game, and it was all accurate down to the numbers of the players who were playing in the game.
Wow.
It's like someone did their homework and probably isn't getting paid enough over that. I'm sure they get paid as well. I hope they get paid well. Probably not enough.
That just shows a lot of games now having that much attention to detail where even if it's like you're playing that last inning and you're like, oh well, what was the scores before the first 8 innings, and you're like, oh wow, that's literally historically accurate. That's just so much attention.
That's amazing that the PS5 or the consoles today can allow them to go have not only that detail but really immerse you in the time. Like that was really cool.
Not all the consoles.
Yes.
Just saying.
It's
okay, so I did pick it up on the Switch. Just I wanted to actually compare it, right, to see how different they were. I mean, the PS5 is where it's being played because I mean, Jason, you talk about the level of detail, right? And playing, as the Rockies and going to San Diego for the first series, right? They're so down to the point where they have the Jack in the Box head, whatever that the round guy head with the cone and stuff, right? The Jack in the Box mascot, right? His head is up on the foul pole on the right side, which is how it is in San Diego, so and just the detail that they put into the sound this year, like the way the ball sounds as it comes off the bat is so more detailed and more accurate in this game than it has in the past, right? And I know just from the sound of the bat, right? It's like, okay, that's gone, I didn't get anything and I got it on the smallest part of the bat and didn't get, that thing's dribbling into the infield. But that being said, I was hoping that we'd get at least a decent representation on the Switch. I mean, graphically, I was already kind of not expecting a lot, but it felt like I was playing triple play baseball on the PS1 from a graphics standpoint. It is so drummed down. And even the controls, like the controls are a lot touchier, especially when you're pitching and everything. And it doesn't play well on the Switch. I get the attempt and I get why they had to do it, because if Sony Santa Monica wanted to keep the license from MLB, they kind of had to bring it to the Xbox and kind of the Switch. But yeah, PS5 is
Sony San Diego. Yeah.
Sony San Diego, rather. Sorry.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think
but...
I played the very first year they released on the Switch, which was a year ago, 2 years
22.
ago, and 22. Yeah. Okay, and so I immediately was like, yeah, I'm playing this on PS5. It's like, you're right. I mean, I feel like they haven't had enough time to port it, right? Like they haven't had, because like that is, as speaking from a games industry perspective, like just getting the hardware difference is so big, right? Like hopefully one day there's less disparity between them. I mean, like Xbox and PlayStation are pretty close, but like, the switch to Xbox to PlayStation Delta is just massive. So it's tough.
if the Switch 2 leaks are to be believed, it's going to be, they're saying it's supposed to be as powerful as the PS4 Pro, the next iteration. So at least that should be a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
It's still not going to be what we have with the horsepower of the PS5 and the Series X, but I will say this from a hitting perspective, I love the beefed up AI. Like a lot of the players are true to themselves that they won't swing unless it's close to the zone. You got to be really good at it. It punishes you more so this year versus years past if you make that hanging curveball pitch. It's like you do that to a good hitter, it's gone.
What are your guys' opinions on like the mechanics and the pitching and fielding and batting in the game? Like, how is it compared to the past versions? Is it tolerable, or is it, or would you say like it's much it's advanced to like?
I mean, pitching has been great for a while. I feel like they pitching has been wonderful.
That hasn't changed.
Yeah, that hasn't changed. Fielding, I feel like every year they do tweaks to it that make me frustrated, but then they change it back, and I'm like, oh, it's fine. But hitting, this year, you're right. It feels better, it sounds better, but like I suck at it this year. I don't know why. I am not as good as hitting. This might be like just made it more bounce. Yeah,
I've never been great at hitting. I'll just like pitching has always been my forte with that game. I'm still kind of pitching in my wheelhouse, but if I make that mistake, like I get punished. I mean, starting the season off against the Padres and the Dodgers, right? It's like, some of those hitters that are on there.
Bro.
But
stop, bro.
Hey, you shouldn't really be talking, being that the Dodgers are 6-5 right now. You shouldn't talk.
We're coming back to we're okay. We're
there's how many games in the season?
I don't know. Their pitching doesn't look good this year.
No, it does not.
It does not look good.
No, we don't. No, we don't have great. No, we're doing well in hitting.
Yeah.
So I will say
we got
this,
good hitters.
Eric, I did feel the same way as like hitting. It felt like I couldn't do anything, but then I realized it's like in years past, I've always just played timing for the hitting. I've never been great at the PCI. And whatnot. And I didn't realize that was still, even though if you go turn it off, you have to go and move it into timing. So like I'd be hitting the ball and like the PCI would just be straight dead center. And I was either topping off the ball or getting underneath it because of where it was. So once I turned off the PCI altogether and just went strictly timing, I'm back to where I was in years past, where I may not be hitting the long ball, but I'm playing station to station.
Okay.
And getting the hits and whatnot. And that's definitely improved the situation, because I told Jerry, we had this talk the other day, and I was like, I don't know how much I'm enjoying this one because of the hitting. Right. Like pitching, I can pitch all day long and I love it, but the hitting was frustrating. Like when I have players like Chris Bryant and CJ Cron and stuff like that batting 125 to start the season, like it shouldn't happen.
CJ Cron's 125 with like 10 dingers to start the season.
Oh no, he was 125 with like a single. But now it's like, now I'm getting the singles and getting the doubles and stuff and playing to the ball that I like to play. I've always been more of that station to station and never Like the long balls are nice when I hit them, but I prefer just let's keep it going. Let's keep that pressure on, because that is the one thing I noticed too with the pitching AI for the computer is that when you do have those runners on, they make more mistakes now than in years past.
Yep.
So it's like they're almost feeling that, you've got a speedster threat on second, that if that ball drops into the dead man zone, you're scoring a run. It's
feeling the pressure.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Do they have the new rules in the game? I didn't notice that. I didn't even think about that.
The pitch clock isn't in the game.
Right. The pitch clock's not in the game, right?
But I mean, I don't think you really need it in the game because unless you're playing PvP, right?
I wonder if that's allowed. Yeah, if you're playing another player, or that's a
although
function you can turn on.
There's a built-in thing. If you wait too long in online play, it'll just automatically pipe a fastball.
Here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I feel like they should add a pitch clock because that adds like an element of like gameplay. So maybe
they should.
And sense of urgency to have you like continue. Yeah.
And I know they still have shifts in the game. I haven't been able to really identify if they're staying within the new shift rule where you have to have 2 feet on the dirt. It looks like it is, but it doesn't have the over shifting like it used to, where you'd have everybody stacked on one side of the diamond.
The Joey Gallo defense.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So with it though, I will say it is, I mean, overall, I'm happy with it. It's gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the details. I mean, Drew and I mean, we frequent Coors Field a lot. And I can't wait to go to the game at the end of the month. But even Coors Field just looks so gorgeous on that game. The only thing I wish they would do is just position the mountains correctly.
I know. Every time I look out past it, just because I'm there way too often, and everything else is so accurate that when you look out to left field through that area and the mountains aren't there, it's just jarring. It's
because it's one of those things. If you were on the first base side of the stadium, if you are second or third deck,
right,
you can look out to that scoreboard and you should be able to see the mountains behind there, especially. And then when the sun's setting, you get all those oranges and it's not there.
Right. It's just like the one thing of like, oh man.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, visually it's stunning. Like you said, I've taken a special note of the audio quality as well, and all of those things. And I agree. I have a strange, weird, probably hyper obsession / fixation, love-hate relationship with this game. And so it's I tend to get very, very nitpicky with my critiques on its gameplay. Most of my critiques of the gameplay are that I start hitting a wall in Diamond Dynasty around the 780 range, and I start getting my ass kicked by people who are way better than me, and I start blaming the game instead of myself. There are certain things that happen that
every standard gamer's first move.
Yeah, first move. It's the game.
It's the game.
It's the game.
It's the same.
No, man, it's the controller.
Change the settings.
Yeah.
It's the shift. It's the angle. The analog shift.
Yeah, I need the turbo button.
Yeah. Oh man, old school. No, I need a third party. I need a turbo button.
I need that NES.
The Mad Cats back in the day.
Yeah.
Or the NES Advantage, where you had the turbo buttons right below your normal buttons.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So good.
So you guys being like hardcore like players and like really diving into the games, all three of you. Do you guys think there's ever going to be a game where they kind of have it fully solid and fully like there, or do you think they're just going to?
It's such a hard. Baseball is so complex, especially with like the physics of baseball. Like it's so complex to get right. Like I feel like they're gonna continually have to tweak it because, like, frankly, too, like the stuff I remember really loving. I loved the Bigs. I loved Baseball Simulator 1000, and those were like the most unrealistic baseball games possible.
Right.
But they were fun because they were just like.
I remember the Bigs. That was fun.
Yeah, and that was super fun. Those two, and so like I feel like if you're trying to actually simulate the actual game of baseball, it's so hard to do because it's probably the most freakishly like there's the you can't predict baseball saying, right? Like,
Right.
you can't, right? And that's
chaotic, right?
It's chaotic.
Yeah. That's
Is
the
it
thing that my frustration with it, and I find myself after every loss where I'm legitimately angry, and my poor dogs have had to leave the room. Which is a very true thing. This is the only time I ever scare my poor animals is playing this game.
Does your wife leave the room too when that happens?
It's not uncommon. It has happened.
Like, oh, brother, I'll be in the other room.
She thinks about MLB The Show. But I do end up, I find myself asking that exact question, Eric, because a lot of times it's the random chaos of it, because you're so angry when the inning before I had 3 perfect swings and I hit line drives right at fielders, which happens sometimes in the game.
Dude.
And then the next inning, you accidentally walk the leadoff guy because you missed your spot by a half an inch. And then the next guy hits a broken bat blooper to left field. Now you got first and third, nobody out. And then you dirt one and a run scores on a wild pitch. And now you want to do crimes.
Dude. Seriously.
But I interview guys who do that every single day for real. That is the frustration of the game of baseball, is your lack of ability to completely control it. You can do the best thing and fail, and you can do the worst thing and succeed, and anywhere in between. And it's just, and in a video game though, it's and to point that, I mean, to that point, right? I Drew, I did trade to go get Garrett Hampson back for the Rocks. Good for you.
I love him in my leadoff. I have been rocking him on a leadoff spot for my games going back to when he was a rookie, and he was actually in MLB The Show. But it was like the second to last game I just played, like it didn't matter how perfect I hit the ball. It was just like in real life that I just basically was hitting it at somebody. Like it didn't matter where it was. It was like, there's somebody, there's a glove. Oh, look, there's that and whatnot. And I think that's, Jerry, to your question, right, is that's what makes, I think, doing MLB as a game is going to be hard to ever get perfect, because there are those nuances, right, where you could have a perfect batting day and then turn around and you're going 0 for 5 and you're dirting, you can't hit anything, right? It's like you might as well swing an oar because, you're like cargo and hitting, can't hit anything down and away. But versus like NBA, right? It's pretty easy for basketball, right? The only physics you really have to truly worry about is how it's going to bounce off the rim.
Right.
That is true. Oh, okay, but also, so a counter question then. When, for all three of you, of course, again, when do you find it the need to stop upgrading? Because I got that fatigue with Madden. I love playing and same with 2K. I bought 2K22 and I'm not upgrading again. Like I like or like maybe down the line, but when do you guys feel that you guys are just going to be like fatigued and like, no, I'm good with this one. This one's good. Or are you going to still kind of take it game by game?
Yeah, I mean, baseball is such a seasonal sport for me. It like is the mark of the return to summer, right?
Yeah.
So it's like the culture and the psychology of baseball is like you're trained to like, this is new for this year. I want something else no matter what. And so I think part of it is that. Part of it is like, like when David Wright was on the cover, I was like, cool, David Wright's on the cover, I'm done. And it's like, hell no, I'm not done, right? Because like the players
and then you got Ohtani.
And then you got Ohtani, and then Ohtani and the Ken Griffey Jr. was on the cover, and I was like, I love all these players, and I want to get all of this. And so the day they put out a Trout cover, if that ever happens, I'm grabbing that. And so it's DeGrom until he got traded to Texas, same thing. But not traded, signed with Texas, I should say. But it's one of those things where I think that they could put out a annualized version where you only, because I frankly I've gotten to the point where I only play certain modes now. Like I won't go into other modes. Like I love Diamond Dynasty, I love the March to October, the quick sort of get to the World Series, but like I don't play exhibition games ever anymore. I won't play. But when I see, especially like storylines came out this year, I was like, hell yeah, I'm getting it for storylines. So if the right mode comes along, and then also, you got to get the right player cards for Diamond Dynasty, so that keeps me in hook too. So, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I'm the wrong person to ask because
I felt that though with 21 to 22. Like I was like, I love 21. Like it was really good. And then 22 came out and it was like, it didn't really do too many tweaks. But the one thing that did upset me, and I'm not a fan of for 23, is that you can't carry over your team for franchise.
Right.
They got rid of that. You had it for 21, then they got rid of it going into 22 and 23, which upset me because in 21, I had a team that I got to the NL championship. And then the freaking Dodgers decided to come back from being down 3-0 and just destroyed me.
Hey, what's up, bro?
Yeah, whatever. But I think it's a case by case basis. Like NBA 2K, you and I, Jerry, you both play, we both played it. I think 23 is fantastic, but it wasn't enough of an upgrade, I think, over like 22, other than rosters. Like the way they changed things up, I think took it a step back in some ways. So like Madden, dude, Madden's Madden. Madden's been Madden for ages. It's the same stuff, right? You could run the same offenses, same defenses, no matter what year, and you're still going to rack up in franchise mode. So baseball, as long as San Diego Studio and they keep improving at the route that they're doing and adding certain things in, then yeah, I think it's going to end up being a yearly thing still for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my thought.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm almost always going to buy it anyway, just because I'm obviously huge into baseball.
It's
but
baseball.
I was actually thinking about. Yeah, right. But I was thinking about this, like, what could they possibly do? Because the enormous history of baseball, and like Eric was saying, I love and hate the Diamond Dynasty mode, but the great thing about it, what keeps me going back, is all the different player cards and different legends that. And there's just so many throughout the history of the game, which gives you so many different ways to build your team potentially, right? And so, when every year, and like I was even thinking about not getting this year's version of the game because I didn't feel like last year's was quite like we've talked about incremental changes or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they announced they were going to have the Negro League thing, and at first
that sold it right there for me.
And I wasn't even thinking about like how great the story mode was going to be, learning the history, playing with the thing. I literally thought of what it was going to be like to have Satchel Paige on my Diamond Dynasty team. I was like, oh man, I'm going to be mowing down dudes online with Satchel Paige. I'm going to be hitting bombs with Buck O'Neil. I've never been able to take a swing, with Buck O'Neil before, and now I'm going to be able to do that. And they added some stuff to Diamond Dynasty this year too, with like. There are also a lot of RPG and card collector elements to Diamond Dynasty, which for me is, I guess, like the Final Fantasy guy. Like, so you get into it in that way where they have these new things where there are these captain cards, right? And so Buck O'Neil is like the captain of the Negro League players, and if you've got 6 or 7 of them all on the team, they all get a stat boost if you've got him on your team. Or you can go and grab like Daniel Bard is the Rockies pitching captain, right? So you get enough Rockies pitchers on your team with that Daniel Bard card, they all get a boost, stuff like that. So there's like this whole like RPG game that you can play in addition to then going and playing the baseball games out there. The Diamond, man, it's so cool.
I think one of the other things before we kind of actually talk baseball, but I think one of the things I like is this year's ratings are probably the most I could actually agree with from a ratings perspective for all the players.
Yeah.
The 90s are well worth it. And, they did have drop-offs, as much as I don't want to agree with the fact that they consider German Marquez a 70, or what is it, 74 or something like that.
It's just based on what he did last year. Yeah. But it's still Daniel Bard is the one that gets absolutely screwed on this every single time. The guy's the most underrated pitcher in baseball.
I hate to say it, Drew, I traded him away.
I do what you got to do, brother. But he was the second best reliever in all of Major League Baseball.
But I brought back. I brought back our version of the Wild thing, Carlos Estevez.
I love Carlos.
And
That's one of my favorite
he is my closer.
human beings I have ever gotten to interview professionally. Carlos Estevez is a remarkable person.
So let me ask you this, Eric, when it comes to MLB The Show, because you are an Angels fan and you are a Mets fan.
Yes.
Do you go Mets or Angels?
Oh, Mets. I mean, definitely. I mean, like, I'm just waiting.
There you go. Good job. Yeah.
I'm just waiting for Steve Cohen to drop his $600 million on Ohtani, and then when that happens, then I can just be a Trout fan and only claim allegiance to the Mets because, like, you know, like the Angels, they're just not a good organization. Like, I mean, I respect them, but like the organization how it's been run with Artie Moreno and stuff like that, from everything I hear, hasn't been the most transparent. You know, I think there's a lot about that, and so maybe they're a good organization. I don't really know, but like from the outsider's perspective, I don't see it because like they're just not winning, right? And so, yeah, I mean, I just love those two players. So like, part of it too was like when I left New York and moved to California, I got to see the Ohtani signing ceremony in 2017, and then I saw the Trout contract extension. I was like at those events, and
sick.
Yeah, being at those events was just like, man, these, you know, and I saw Trout when he first broke into the league. I saw Ohtani his second game he ever pitched, you know, and it was just like, it's one of those things that always happens with it. When you move somewhere else, you sort of just start to like fall in love with it because that's what you see and you hear a lot of. I mean, yeah, you know, like imagine if you and Drew moved out of Colorado, you'd have other teams too, right?
No. And I can say that, Eric, because so I grew up originally as a Yankees fan.
Okay.
So, but that was back during the days of Mattingly and all that. And back, I can remember when I was in high school and Jeter coming up, you know, his first game, and you know, that era also, you know, not Yankees, but that's when Cal Ripken broke the Ironman record. I remember watching that game on ESPN when he started, you know,
that's
awesome. But I've always been a Rockies fan since day one. Like when we played at Old Mile High Stadium, when they had to move the east stands to make room for the field and whatnot. I remember watching games there, and that was just, it was fantastic. But
that's what
I think really, for me is I become a even bigger Rockies fan because when I moved out of Colorado to Virginia in 2018, I basically got to use my MLB TV to watch just about every game unless they're playing the Nationals.
Watch the games.
Now that I'm back in Colorado, I have to I just listen to the games now, which I will say this though, Jack Corrigan on the mic doing audio, just the radio broadcast for the Rockies I love listening to him, you know, as much as I love Drew Goodman and even Jenny Cavnar when she actually does call the games. I still love listening to the audio broadcast. So I'll listen to the games and stuff like that. In the background, there's just something more surreal about it because then you hear really that crack of the bat more on the radio than you do, you know, on that.
Well, that's a good question. What's my personal preference? And I wonder what everybody's personal preference here is like, I'd rather actually listen to a game, be at the game, right? Like this is honestly listen to a game on the radio, be at the game, then watch a game on TV. Like that's like that's the order. So
pretty much. Yeah. I would much rather be at the game.
I would be at the game.
Listen or watch it is the same to me, but if any, the top priority, like if I could be at the game, I'd rather be at the game.
Yep.
I would rather be at the game as a top priority, but audio, just listening to the game on the radio I think is by far as much as, like I said, I love Drew Goodman and that cast that calls, you know, the Rockies games. And I hope they stick around, being you've got these regional sports networks that are collapsing, you know, and can't pay their bills. Right. And AT&T Sportsnet is one of those, you know, regional networks that are collapsing. So real quick, how do we feel about pitch clock and the bigger bases?
Bigger bases, I am all for. I've missed stolen bases forever.
Yes.
I haven't been at a game, so that's how I feel about bigger base. Like if anything that increases stolen bases, like I grew up with Ricky Henderson, so like that was he was the man, right? Like, and I loved the swagger, I loved everything about it.
Yep.
I remember when he broke that record too.
Yeah.
He broke the stolen base record. That was
epic.
I think he picked up base and he took it with him. Yeah, because he's like, nope.
And it hasn't even come close.
Yeah,
like, nobody's come close to it yet.
No, nobody's still
steals anymore. It's not a thing.
It's this year. It has been though. I mean, steals are up. Bigger bases and stuff, and that pitch clock. I think having that one that one throw over, to the bag, and that's it. I think that's great because how many times have we seen, no matter what the team is, you get a stolen base threat, right? And all it is throw it over, and it's like, dude, come on, let's just pitch, right?
Then it started becoming like a buying time kind of move for the pitcher. Then that got annoying because then it was
Pedro Baez, right?
Right.
Come on. That guy took forever. And that's it. I haven't been to a game, and I'm going to a game actually tomorrow, and I'm very excited. I'm very excited to see how I feel because now with all these games being shorter, like I don't know how I'm going to feel with the rhythm of it. And I've heard that some people get like discombobulated by it, but so I don't know how I feel about the pitch clock for that. But like as a theory, it's great, but like I want to be at a game and feel it. So
and I can't. I'm anxious because we're going to be taking the boys and whatnot, just a big family trip down to Coors at the end of the month, and I'm looking forward to that. But that was the one thing I was listening to. I know it's a competitor, kind of, sort of, Drew, but I was listening to the fan. Listen to the guys in the morning, right? But they were talking about how like it used to be with the Rockies, right? Those games used to go like 3-4 hours, so you could show up, fourth inning, and you still got an entire baseball game. Now you show up at the same amount of time, you're into the 6th or the 7th, so you're not necessarily.
Bud Black got a really funny comment about that after the home opener. He said, sometimes we'll see that our crowd starts showing up in the 3rd and the 4th because they're still having that last one across the street. And then he looked right in the camera and goes, "People of Denver, have that last one a little earlier." There's too many early innings. You gotta have that a little earlier. Bud Black.
That's awesome.
Well, and they're gonna have one less bar downtown now with Blake Street Tavern being a staple of downtown for Rockies fans and stuff is now gone. But
very sad.
When we look at the season overall, right, and we kind of talked about this, like everybody is hovering. The majority of the league is hovering between that 7-4 and 4-7 mark. Like this is like even this early in the season, this is kind of weird to see that this many teams, like the Dodgers, even the Angels, that they're not. Well, no, but what I'm saying is like they're like in the middle, like the middle of the pack.
Everyone's in the middle.
Everybody, it's the race.
The only one that hasn't lost is Tampa.
Right.
I mean,
that's so weird.
Playing down at a fishbowl where you hit a ball high enough, you're going to hit the rafters.
Yeah, and the one thing that Tampa faced the Athletics, the Nationals, and one other team. I think the Pirates. Like three teams that were supposed to be like some of the worst teams this year. So I feel like it's a little early to tell. But like, I mean, Tampa, I just feel like their style of play has always been move quick, hit, small ball station to station, as you were saying. And I feel like it might lend itself to this kind of baseball, right? Like the way baseball needs need to be played.
Yeah.
So
when you look at the divisions, right? Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I was just saying like that pitch timer definitely will throw off people's rhythms, like how you're just so used to. And like I think Tampa's gotten it where it's like, you know what? Like it throws everyone off. Let's just speed it, even have a faster tempo.
There's that. And I'm gonna give it to Scherzer. He is gaming that pitch clock right now. And I love it. But can we all agree how great it? I mean, but can we agree how great it is to see Machado doing Machado and screwing around with his batting gloves and getting called for strikes?
As much as I hate Manny Machado, though, I still thought that was some nonsense. I still like, man, you gotta give the guy timeout when he calls timeout. If you're only giving people one timeout, you have to give it,
dude. Drew, the one I'm thinking of, he didn't even call timeout. He just sat there just screwing with his gloves. He's like Machado being Machado, right?
He's such a twerp. Whoa, Rockies just hit a big home. Ryan McMahon with a 3-run home run while we're talking baseball.
While we're talking baseball.
That's good. Yeah, I was following the Mets game, and the Bogarts just hit a 3-run home run, and I'm like, all right. So
he's good.
Yeah, so it is now. Yeah, 4-2. I mean, we need Rymack is just hitting bombs when he's getting a hold of them right now.
He likes playing the Cardinals too. They do get a little up. They'll all deny it. They all I heard them all, but they
dude. As much as I love the fact. Okay, Nolan got his 300, but I love seeing the Cardinals fail because because of how he. In my eyes,
this feels personal.
No,
it is. Is this some Arenado?
Yes,
is this some Arenado? Okay, this is Arenado.
Yeah. Arenado essentially tried, in my eyes, as a fan, right? Drew's a little bit closer as a writer, but in my eyes, I felt Arenado tried to pull Tulowitzki. And to the fans, he was saying, "I want to be here. I want to win here." Behind the scenes, he was saying, "I want to get out." Now, granted. Rydich wasn't exactly a great facilitator of the situation. And it was awful. Now, granted, I think, we got Gomber in the trade, which Gomber's doing all right. He's done all right for us. But I just didn't like the way the whole thing went down. And when in the regular season, for me, Arenado was great. But when he got to the postseason, it's like he went back to playing AA ball. And everybody started pulling like they did with Cargo, where they would just go down and away, and he would be swinging at them with runners on, and he just wouldn't show up. Yeah. And I think it cost us games in the playoffs. So for me, I'm like, you want to go to another team, and
he's still the greatest defensive third baseman.
I will
probably
not
ever.
Disagree with
probably
you.
Ever.
I think he is probably the greatest. Well,
yeah.
I still think Cal is probably, up there too, but I think Arenado, though, easy top 5, best ever to play third base, period. From that glove, what he can do.
I actually think he's probably the greatest of all time.
I agree. I agree with that.
Even over guys like Mike Schmidt, Brooks Robinson.
Yeah.
I think Nolan Arenado is the greatest third baseman of all time across the board. Absolutely defensively. He did stuff on a day-to-day basis that it was difficult to describe to people who don't.
Dude, some of those throws
do things that were out of this world ridiculous, and he's still doing them in St. Louis. I do agree with that, though.
Even compared to other past like third baseman, what about Ripken? He was third baseman, right? What about Ripken?
Ripken was third and short, but
he started off as short.
I knew him more as a short. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Brooks Robinson's the only comparable. Like that's my dad talked about Brooks all the time, but I feel like. No, Arenado, just the level he's playing at with the type, the way he had. I mean, Brooks Robinson didn't have balls coming 100 miles an hour off the bat, right? Like maybe a couple, but not like Arenado has. So
it's called the hot corner for a reason,
right?
Yes, and Arenado.
I hate third base.
Even outside of what happened and how that whole thing,
I always got sent to third base because whenever I wasn't catching behind the plate, they send me to third. Because I knew how to catch and I could take the speed, but I hated it because the moment you got that little bump or that little nick, and always
outside of everything and how it went down, I still to this day, Nolan is, you cannot discount what he does. Kind of like for me, not a fan of the Yankees anymore and everything, but just what Aaron Judge or those guys have done. Still, not really rooting for the Yankees, but recognizing, I still love Mo. And to me, Mo is the epitome, the bar of what a closer is.
Yep.
He is the Sandman.
For sure.
And that comes from me when I grew up when he came up he was a setup man for Wetland. That's how far back I go with the Yankees. Back when Wetland was a monster closer and stuff like that. And, even respecting like Danye, from that perspective, even though he's a freaking Dodger. Still got to respect that, right? So when we look at, I know it's early, but give me each year's predictions on NLCS, ALCS, and who ultimately wins the World Series.
Oh.
Yes, we are not even a tenth of the way into the season. But
I feel like I'm gonna curse some teams by doing that.
Whenever you start saying you say, and I know, and I don't want to curse.
Can one of those be the let's say the Dodgers?
I mean, like, are you going to Vegas in a second, Matt? So put these in like at the sports book? Like,
no.
All right. So NLCS, ALCS, and series. I really feel like San Diego's gonna get into the NLCS in the West. I just don't know why. But
are we okay? Let's preface this. Does Fernando Tatis get tagged for performance enhancing drugs again? In that scenario.
Damn.
That
maybe probably.
Yeah.
I know. What a sad. I mean, that's so much talent. It's just like, really, you got to do that. That, but I feel like San Diego will get in there somehow. I just feel like they've been building to this, and their owners willing to spend what it takes to get there.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say the Mets are going to be there because I'm biased, but like I feel like I'm going to curse them, and I just feel like they don't have the chemistry this year. Like seeing them play a couple games right now, the chemistry is just not there. But
and Atlanta's a monster to go up against.
Atlanta's a lot. So yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think it's going to be San Diego and Atlanta, and I feel like Atlanta has the sort of like what's it
called?
Moxie. The moxie and the experience, but like I think San Diego might win, and the San Diego in the World Series, and then the AL side of things. I want to see the Rays, so I'm going to say the Rays. Like, I just want to see it happen. I feel like it's
a good Cinderella story.
Yeah. At this point now, like, how far do you guys think Tampa's going to go before they hit the first Dell?
They have a really good pitching staff if they can stay healthy, and they have good hitters. Franco, so like I think they get, and this style of baseball might be perfectly suited to them. So
I'm saying, just like, how far do you think? It's like they found the groove that a lot of people are just like, you know what, like, it's too quick, or like, you're not having this time to, go through your rituals and stuff like that some people will do, and you're just like, okay, well, you got to step up now. All right, got to hit the ball or swing at it, and all right, done. Next,
You know what? Looking at their schedule, I mean, they've got 2 more with Boston. Boston's not great right now. Toronto's not great. Cincy's not great. The White Sox aren't great. I think theoretically, best case scenario is they lose to Houston. One of those games coming up. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 series away.
Yeah. Thanks. So you think they're like 20 something?
I think theoretically they could be like 16-0 going into what they got. That's 8 more games. So what, they're 11-0 and 19. I think they could theoretically be 20-ish and 0 going into Houston. Theoretically.
That'd be close to the record. The record's 21, right? Yeah.
Yep.
I don't. Yeah.
So who's your other who's the other out of the World Series?
I Houston, just because they always end up there somehow. So and then I really am just like, I don't know why they're back again, but they're back again. So I think the Rays will win that series. It'll be the Rays in San Diego. I do think, which nobody in baseball wants because they're 2 small market teams, I imagine.
Right.
but I do think that the San Diego will win it all this year. For some reason.
No one's looking to Milwaukee. They've been pretty solid. You don't think they're gonna?
I mean, Corbin or Burns had a bad outing the other day, and I'm worried. I mean, like, Woodruff's good, but like they don't have the hitters. Like, who they got? William Adames.
They're not what they used to
be. Yeah. So yeah, those.
I think the Dodgers. I think my boys, if they're not having a moment, because I feel like they're having a moment right now, kind of catching up and staying a little solid. But who knows? I think we're looking strong. I don't know about the World Series. I don't think the World Series though. I don't think so.
Drew,
do you want me to give you what I think it's going to be, or can I have fun?
Don't have the fun and say the Rockies are going to the World Series because
The Rockies are going.
Still some realistic
we
fun.
do not have the World Series players right now.
I'm not going MLB The Show fun. I mean, I'm not trading the farm. It'll be Mets, Dodgers in the National League. On paper, those are just the best teams, even with the injuries that the Mets have incurred. And their owner has proven a willingness to be proactive, and he's going to go out and make moves at the deadline to shore up whatever issues they still have. So this first half of the season for the Mets, whatever issues they have, it's almost like you want to have them now, because he's going to go and address it, and you can actually feel that as a fan or as a whatever. Like at least you've got somebody there who is full on committed to doing what it takes.
Oh, we don't feel it. We're so pessimistic. We don't feel
that. Dude, they're like Knicks fans, right?
You don't have
Knicks get a new owner, say, hey, we're gonna spend some money, and then they still lose. You know,
no, but
it doesn't always just come down to the money.
Drew,
but
I do want to agree with you, Drew. I do really want to agree with you. So please keep going.
I didn't want to curse your team either, but I've just it was funny before last season. I wanted to be really critical actually of Cohen. I was trying not to. I felt like a lot of people in the press were kind of in this Cinderella honeymoon phase with the guy, and we all, to some degree, just as fans of the game, do want to see them spend the money and care about winning, and say a lot of the things he said, and be a little more like a fan.
And have the Subway Series mean something again.
And care, and all of that stuff is good. But it was funny. I was trying to be extra harsh of them, and then people were asking me before last season or the one before, what would be an ideal offseason? What did I want the Rockies to do? And I said there were two outfielders I was very specific I wanted them to get, and it was Mark Canha and Starling Marte. And it was exactly what the Mets did. And I was like, well, I can't pretend to not like this team anymore. Since I spent 2 months talking about how I love those two specific players, the Mets picked them up, and they've been great. Well, Marte more, Canha's been a little more. But as much as I don't even want to necessarily root for or like the Mets, they're just a good baseball team, and it's been good, and they're good for baseball, which is weird to say about a New York team, but it's true.
It's weird to say about the Mets.
It is
after all these years. I mean, and that's no disrespect. I mean, that's no real disrespect for the Mets. It's just, or the Mets fans rather. It's just the Mets have just wallowed in mediocrity for a long time.
The previous ownership was marked by the most famous Ponzi scheme in the history of the world. So it's not like
all right. So Drew, who do you got from the AL?
Again, I want to be more fun here. I don't want to just go, well, Yankees, Astros again. I do think one of either my Mariners or Blue Jays are going to sneak in there. Those are my fun teams that I want to take instead. Like I said, no one's off to a blistering start yet. Toronto, I think, has the young talent that you'll be up and down, but when they get going, they'll get going. They've got the pieces there. And Seattle is really the team that I want it most for in my heart. They are the American League Rockies, right? They haven't been to the last year. They hadn't been to the World Series, or they hadn't been to the playoffs since 2001. They've never won the World Series. I don't even think they've ever actually played in the World. They might be the only team in Major League Baseball that's never even played in the World Series.
And that's sad looking at who they've had up there. With Griffey and
Ichiro but they've got a great young core, one of the best young players in baseball right now, and they're doing smart and fun and interesting contract things, like paying guys for what they're worth, which is a strange concept. I know.
Who wins the World Series in your eyes?
Let's take it to Vegas, maybe. They got to be the longest shot of anyone I've said. Give me the Mets. It's gonna. I think it's the Mets year. And I think it's also going to spark an incredible conversation in the game of like, sometimes just trying really hard to win is the right thing to do in pro sports.
Unless you have the Monforts as an owner.
No, but they try to win. And this is the big thing that I always push back on with the Rockies, because I know they're frustrating and I know that they're not well run, but there is a huge difference between that and the cynical way that the Oakland A's and the Los Angeles Angels and the Cincinnati Reds are run, which is we lose on purpose and we're proud of it.
Well, and then you pay Joey Gallo that monstrous contract that hampers your franchise forever. So I think for me, I think it's going to come down to San Diego and the Mets. San Diego is, once they get Tatis back from his 80-game suspension, that combined with Machado and Xavier Bogaerts, that's going to be a monster top 5 of that batting order, right?
Position player wise, those guys are insane.
Yeah. They got the pitching staff now, I think. Ultimately, though, San Diego. I do want to see the Mets. And I think a lot of it is the fact is the fan base deserves it. They have an owner that is spending the money.
Yes,
and, so I do want to see the Mets. And as much as I would love to see a Mets-Yankees World Series, I don't think the Yankees make even the ALCS this year. I think for me, AL, it's going to be Tampa, and I want to, I think the Angels will probably get a little bit hotter once with Ohtani, once Ohtani figures out the pitch clock, which is completely different for him than any other time he's ever played, and whatnot. But ultimately, though, I think the new rule changes benefit Tampa, who has always been small ball. And I think it's going to end up, I think it's going to be Tampa and Mets. And I think this is the year for Tampa. I really do. Because you think Tampa has gotten their farm system straight. They've got good talent, and they've always been station to station, and that bigger base and everything, I holds true.
And we're all about that base.
I think from as much as we're used to the Dodgers every year, I just don't think their pitching staff is where it needs to be, especially Kershaw. I mean, you always say Kershaw's Kershaw, but Kershaw's back is Kershaw's back now. So
everyone gets old eventually. The game tells us all that we're done one day.
Yep. So Eric and Drew, I want to thank you guys for coming on again. You guys are always welcome back anytime.
I can't believe that was an hour already.
I know, right?
I know, that was great.
That felt super quick.
Good talk, yeah.
So for those that are tune in for this first time, thank you for crashing game night with us. If you like what you heard, head on over to crashinggamenight.com. Subscribe to the platform we're on. We also you can go in, check out our contributors and guest page, which has Eric's profile and Drew's profile on there with links to their past episodes. So if you guys want to actually hear some Marvel talk, go check out Eric's prior episode from about 100 episodes ago. I'm sure we'll talk Marvel sometime in the future. But it's
we
great.
can talk about there's a painting somebody did of the X-Men playing baseball. We can talk about that next time.
Right.
Oh, that'd be cool. But, and who's the best X-Men for position? Great topic. Oh, that's cool.
Can we get, if we're gonna do that, then we need to do it. We'll have Eric on, we'll have Drew on, we'll get we'll get the lead
good one. That's a good one to do. Like who would be our teams?
I actually answered this in a tweet somewhere. I got to go dig that up. But
totally starting pitcher. I got Cyclops leading my rotation. I know that. There you go.
But no, we'll get the Leewolds on, so we can have a true,
I'm gonna think about this for the rest
animated series.
I'm gonna do in the press box. They're gonna be like, "What happened on that last play?" I'm gonna be like, "I don't know. I was thinking about Roke in left field. I don't know." Power bat, she a lot of range.
A lot of range, ton of range. Fly up there.
But with that, just with everything that's going on right now, especially in the U.S. with the shootings that have all been happening in Tennessee and Kentucky and everything, please, everybody, just be excellent to each other.
Be safe out there, my goodness.
That's right, everybody. All you nerds, everyone, just practice to be safe. And once again, we want to send out that continuous message to let's all just try and be a little bit more positive. Let's try and just do a little bit better and be a little bit kinder, nicer, lend a hand. Matt, the atmosphere right now is still very tough. And it just seems like it's not going away anytime soon. So we just got to continue trying to do better. So just practice a little bit more patience and a little bit more kindness from all of us, and let's just try and do better, guys. Thank you.
Definitely, you know, and just as Matt said, just be safe out there, man. Like it's very tough. It's a tough world out there, both in real life and in the baseball world. So just one quick question, you know, like before we exit it, and I want to hear from Eric, Drew, because this is always a questionable topic, and I don't play any sports games, but do you guys believe in the cover curse? Like the MLB Show cover curse, the Madden curse.
With Madden,
Madden curse, yeah.
Because the Madden curse is like, honestly, it's kind of real.
The Madden curse is science. That's been proven.
Yeah.
That's
Like the MLB Show one, it's been up and down. So
I don't believe
it's been up and down. I don't believe it. I mean, Jazz got injured recently, but like I saw a couple jokes about it. But Ohtani did fine in 22. He did really well.
Fine.
So yeah.
No, it's the Madden one is legit.
Yeah, the Madden one, but the MLB one is the one that's been up and down. So I just want to get your 2 cents.
No,
I don't think so. I don't believe it.
It's like anything in sports. It's like once it happens enough that people believe in it, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and then it's real.
All right, Jay.
But you know, just be safe out there as always. You know, do your taxes. It's right around the corner. So if you haven't done them already, by the time you hear this, hopefully you did. But anyways, since my man Theo Walski is not here with us tonight, I guess Jerry is gonna have to do it because Matt blended the last time. Oh no, Jerry blended. Well,
no, I didn't.
Yeah.
Both of them. I think we both did. But I got this one. I got this.
But
so, Jason,
my man.
Jerry,
I guess send us out like Theo does.
Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. TTFN. Thank you for watching.
Oh my God,
that's all for now.
I did. I screwed it up. Didn't I?
Oh my God,
I screwed it up.
I did screw it up. I always
out of here. Bye, guys.